Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the playing of
the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
And here's your host, Jana, and her big brother, Jeff. This is the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Last week, we were pre-World Series. This week, post-World Series. Didn't go the sixth that either one of us thought it was going to go, but it's all right. We did go 5. It was almost a sweep, really, when you think about it, because it only went 5. And we have a first-time ever World Series champion. There were 5 teams that had never won one. Now there's only 4. The Texas Rangers are your 2023 world champions, and pretty incredible. So we will talk about the World Series, how it breaks down, some things that kind of surprised us, and some things that really could have changed, especially in the last game of the series. It could have changed the outcome a little bit, but before we get there, remember you can find us on social media, Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A.
And on Instagram and Facebook at Sibling Rivalry BB with the A.
And on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. And if you want to go get your World Series champion gear, head to the website, click on the Fanatics link, and you'll be able to find all of that and stuff for the D-backs as well, and any team that was in the postseason. You can get gear from them, or you can just start preparing for the 2024 season. Only 100 and some odd days until then. So catchers and pitchers report. All right, Dateline, Phoenix, Arizona, November 1st, a new champion is crowned. Like we just said, the Texas Rangers have, who started off as a franchise, as the Washington Senators back in 1961. You know who else joined the league in 1961?
1961, the Angels?
Uh-huh.
That was, yeah, okay.
The Angels got their World Series championship out of the way, which is kind of surprising because I'm sure most of us thought that'd still be an ongoing thing. And Texas took them 2 decades more, but they were able to, 21 years after the Angels got theirs, the Rangers did that. And honestly, that only leaves one team to have never played in a World Series. Now, the Rangers have played before. Of those 5 teams that hadn't won, only one team's never even sniffed it, and that's Seattle Mariners. They've never been to a World Series.
That's right.
The other teams that don't have a championship, Milwaukee, Colorado. We just said Seattle, and San Diego. They've been to 2 World Series in 84 and 98, but just couldn't win it. And now, and then there was the Rangers, but not no Moa. So why don't we take a look at the whole series? Any thoughts before we attack from game 1 through game 5?
I was hoping for a better series. And I think I got my hopes up because it was tied 1-1 going to Arizona. And so I was really hoping and I really wanted a 7-game series. That's the selfish baseball fan in me. But I know I had picked the Rangers in 6, but I was hoping for a 7th, and it just felt like, and as we go through these games, it just felt like things started falling off for the Diamondbacks, and it looked less and less like they were going to be able to make that comeback. So, yeah, my selfish baseball fan wanted 7, and I was really hoping for not that it wasn't fun to watch, because baseball was fun, but yeah, I wanted it to be a little bit more, because there were some blowouts,
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. At the very beginning, the first 2 games really set up that this could be what we thought it could be, which 2 teams that, even though they get there a little differently, were pretty evenly matched. Nobody was overwhelming in one part or another. You could kind of counter what each position, if you went player by player. But somewhere along the way, it just didn't come to be. Game 1 was a Zennings game that needed a walk off to take it home, but it was the Diamondbacks. Well, let's start here. I was like, who's reading a script? Because sure enough, right after Joe Davis said the first team that scores between them, both teams, the first team in any games that these guys have played, when they score first, they win. And the Rangers promptly score 2 runs in the first inning. And it was like, okay, we're doing the script this time, huh? And of course it was, Corey Seager walks, Evan Carter, and then Adolis Garcia. Boom, boom. There's your 2 runs. And you're like, okay, now we see where the script's going here. Can the script be rewritten? Can it be flipped? Who knows? And honestly, for a little bit, it looked like maybe that wouldn't be the case, because the D-backs come back and score. What was it, back in the 3rd inning, and they scored 3 runs. And you're like, oh, and then even go up and get a couple more. The one thing that really was Zach Gallen didn't pitch great.
Right.
And
yeah.
Had he pitched better, chances are the D-backs walk away with a victory in this game.
Which I think also will come to play in a later game, because this matchup happens again. But in this matchup, you had Zach Gallen, you had Nathan Eovaldi, and Nathan Eovaldi has been pretty much untouchable this postseason. I mean, he's just looked really good. I mean, there have been moments, but he's been able to get out of, there were some jams, he was able to get out of them. And yeah, I guess that's the thing is with in this first game, I think that's what kind of got my hopes up, because it went Zennings. You had a walk-off. It's the World Series. And you're like, yes, this is going to be like this every night. And it wasn't.
No, and in the bottom of the 9th of this game, Paul Sewald comes on to pitch, and that had pretty much been lights out for most of the season, and definitely in the playoffs. He was pretty much unhittable, and I think that the cardinal sin was committed in baseball by a pitcher. He walked the leadoff hitter. Leody Taveras gets on base. Marcus Semien, who we'll talk about a little bit more later, not having a great playoffs at all, strikes out. So you're like, okay, maybe you can get Corey, because it's not unheard of for Corey to hit into a double play.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful where you pitch to him, and he wasn't. and Corey cranked one out into deep right, scoring both he and Leody Tavares, and it's tied.
Yeah, promptly tied. Now, this is interesting because if you go back to the series that they had with the Orioles, I think Corey Seager only had like 6 at bats because the Orioles walked him like 9 times.
Right.
So you wonder, you can always go back and say, be the armchair quarterback, but you wonder, oh, should we have done this, in this situation? We have just walked him. But, you had 2 guys coming up that were capable of also, doing some damage or getting their team ahead.
Right. So probably the smartest thing that happened for them is a couple of so he hits that home run. It's tied up, strikes out Evan Carter, and then hits Adolis Garcia.
Right, yeah, of course.
Which was probably they should have walked Corey, and hitting Garcia was probably a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So they limit the damage, but it was tied now, and you kind of see the wind go out of their sails a little bit. And when they go into the 10th inning, they've got guys they want to come up. Ketel Marte, who was, I don't remember how many hit streak at that point was, what he had, it's his streak continues.
Yeah.
So if this was game 1 and they played 5 games and he was about at 17, I think by then. So this is like his 17th or 18th straight.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah.
Straight game, but he does nothing. Remind me to tell you about Eduardo Perez and Gabriel Moreno. And I said it that way on purpose.
Okay.
He strikes out, and then Christian Walker, who just really couldn't get anything going all playoffs, hits a fly ball, and that was it. They would go through this a couple of different times until the bottom of the 11th, facing Kyle Nelson, who actually would come back and have a good outing later in the series. But it was kind of like once they got deeper into the pen, Ginkel's already pitched, Thompson's already pitched, Seawald's already pitched. It's like, what's going to happen here? Kyle Nelson would give up. Actually, Kyle Nelson didn't. Kyle Nelson gets pulled out. They bring in Miguel Castro, which fittingly, Castro facing off with Cuban-born Adolis Garcia. And, he causes a missile crisis of his own.
Yeah, a homer to right with 373 feet. Oh, that homer. And that's the walk-off. And it's a walk-off in the World Series. I mean, what can be better than that?
I don't know. More innings?
More innings, 18,
I don't know.
19.
It was crazy how it went from the D-backs were right there on the verge of winning game 1, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, it looks like that script thing that I was thinking about earlier, and then I went, nope, they saved it at the last minute.
Yep.
I guess I didn't read far enough ahead in the script. And of course, Garcia hitting it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So, not like I said, outing wise, Nathan Eovaldi only went 4 2/3 in this game, gave up 5 runs on 6 hits. Zach Gallen, it's interesting because he really pitched better than Eovaldi did in this game, but it just didn't feel like it.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, Eovaldi had 8 strikeouts in this game. Gallen had 5. And he even, Eovaldi had the 5 runs. But yeah, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the execution of, the selection of pitches or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. I thought going in,
And the fact that he walked 4 batters.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought going into the series too that the Diamondbacks had kind of the edge as far as the bullpen. At least I felt that way because I mean, I know, they have Leclerc who has been on and off, and I don't know. It just seemed like maybe there was a little bit of an edge for Arizona, but that was based on the series with Philadelphia because I felt like they had the bullpen came in and they were just, they're just better.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that they had, 3 or 4 relievers compared with, having just a couple, because you can't, with the Rangers just having a couple that you could count on, Leclerc being one of them. Because even Chapman wasn't, he's not a no-brainer. Oh, okay, Chapman's in, lights out.
Yeah, no, because he doesn't have the the control.
Right.
So you could change a game if he's on the mound and he throws one of his wild pitches. The game could completely change at that point. So yeah, he's not. And then even like Andrew Haney, who has been coming out of the pen for the Rangers, looking at those kind of guys, it's like
Spores.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, and even if they came in, it's like, oh, he'll be in early. Who knows what he'll do? I mean, if he comes in and just kind of stops them or keeps it quiet. But so it looked good for them, but then you kind of saw the wind go out of their sails in that game. And like I said, game 1 goes to the Rangers in Zennings, 6-5. And that takes us to game 2 there at the Grill. One thing that could be said for all of these games, roofs open at both the Grill and at Chase Field.
Yeah.
Which Chase I could get is finally at a point where you could open the roof.
Right. Well, you just think about it. Even when when Philadelphia was playing, they were playing Philadelphia. It was still 100 degrees.
Right.
And it couldn't open the roof. So maybe the Arizonians, what do they call the people who live in Phoenix?
Venetians,
maybe.
I don't know. I mean, isn't that what they?
It seems like it, but yeah, maybe they got some relief, so they were able to open
that's kind of
Phoenicians.
Mythological, ancient kind of a thing, but.
Phoenix, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask some people I know that live there. What are you called? Phoenixites.
Phoenicians. Why wouldn't you just?
I like that. I like that. But also one of the things too, as we saw, is I think based on the previous series, looking at Texas, it didn't seem like they could ever win at home.
Right.
And so it was kind of like, oh, they're not going to win. We'll see how it goes. And they actually did, and they won it in, very dramatic fashion.
Right. And then the next night, it looked like they gave it their all on the night before, and that was it.
That's it.
Potentially, they're done. Maybe not. But what really was good about this particular outing was Merrill Kelly.
Oh, yeah. Merrill Kelly pitches 7 innings, gives up 3 hits, only 1 run, and had 9 strikeouts. So really, I mean, a very impressive outing from the 35-year-old.
Who just a few seasons ago was pitching in Korea.
Right.
He wasn't even not on anybody's radar, and it wasn't until the Diamondbacks, and he talks about that saw an interview with him where he talked about that they came and explained what they want to do, why they wanted him there, and why he went there, because he'd had a couple other offers, but it just didn't seem as good as what they were offering. Jordan Montgomery, who's looked good throughout the playoffs. Doesn't look great in this one. Gives up 9 hits over the 6 innings that he pitched and 4 runs. No strikeouts. Walks 1. Gives up a home run, just like Merrill did. Merrill gave his up to Mitch Garver, and Gabriel Moreno would be the one to hit the home run for them. Another guy who we saw do well throughout the playoffs anyway, Andrew Saalfrank, rookie pitcher.
Right.
He only threw an inning and a third, but it was 1 hit. Nobody scored. And then so the Rangers had to throw a lot of pitchers, including Haney. You mentioned Dane Dunning, Chris Stratton. It was Chris Stratton and Martin Perez, the veteran Ranger. He's been there longer than most everybody else.
Right.
And he had a bad night.
Yeah, it was bad.
He ends up giving up 4 of the runs, and good night for them for the Diamondbacks. Tommy Pham, player of the game.
Oh yeah, 4 for 4.
In more ways than one.
Yes.
He's 4 for 4. And then when he's at a point where he's going to get to bat again and potentially go 5 for 5. He says to his manager, "Go ahead and why don't we let Jace Peterson get a World Series at bat here? We're ahead. At that point, it's 9-1. They didn't need any. It's like, give him a chance. Actually, it wasn't. It was like at that point that he came up, I think it was like 7-1. But
still,
yeah,
which was really cool of Tommy Pham to do. I think because I guess I wouldn't have expected that, because he kind of has had a rough, kind of a gangster, right?
Jace Peterson
attitude
is not in his fantasy football league.
Right. That's right.
He is no bad moves against him.
No, because if it had been Jocelyn, he would have went up and hit.
He'd have hit
and slapped
probably
Jocelyn,
even struck out on purpose,
and then slapped Jocelyn in the face.
Right. See what you made me do. Anyway, so great night for the D-backs. They show why they're there. They played, other than the 1 home run, they had the couple doubles from Tommy Pham. They just played their brand of baseball, and you just thought, okay, cool. This is the series that we thought it was going to be, and the D-backs look like the team that we thought that they were, playing like a little small ball overall, and hey, it just seemed like there was Tommy Pham had a great night, except for when he got picked off second base. That was pretty awkward.
Yeah, that was awkward.
And then Mike Maddox, I guess, doesn't like Tommy Pham because he had some words, and he did use I guess something that's become a part of the playoffs. He said "attaboy."
Oh. Yeah, that's the phrase of the 2023 baseball of the Fall Classic or the playoffs.
Yes,
is "attaboy."
Attaboy. Pham, attaboy. Not exactly. Although he did say something that had the F sound, like Pham. I don't know. I don't know what their history is, but it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I said it with Tommy Pham seems, and maybe he's kind of taken on the role here, with Arizona. There's obviously a lot of younger players, and maybe he's trying to reinvent himself in a way to be the elder statesman, the veteran in the clubhouse. Whereas before, when he played with San Diego, he was just, awful. It was like, he got stabbed outside of a
Be a
strip
thug.
club, yeah, being a thug. And he just seems, kind of different. So, but yeah, he had a great night in this particular game. So what else can you think? This is going to be a good series. It's tied 1-1.
Right. And
we're going to Phoenix.
The Rangers looked like the Dodgers did as far as their big guys. Simeon actually had a hit, but Seager, Ofer, Garcia, Ofer. It just didn't. Evan Carter, the rookie, had one hit, but they scattered 4 hits over the lineup. They just couldn't get. Mitch Garver was the only one that did anything with that home run. So yeah, Phoenix, here they come, and that's how's that going to go? They're going to send one of the guys that I thought, because I picked the Diamondbacks in 6. To be honest, I didn't care who won. I don't have a big rooting interest for either one, but I kind of probably was like, when the Rangers won it all, I was fine with that because they'd never won one.
Right.
Now they never have to win another one as far as I'm concerned, but they've won one.
Exactly.
As long as the Padres never win one, I don't care about the other guys either. They can all win or not win. And you know who I would think is probably going to be? I'm going to call this now my 24 shot. Now that Craig Counsell's probably gone from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee will finally win one.
Okay, that's a bold prediction. We'll have more bold predictions as we get closer, but when we start talking about hot stove and stuff like that. But okay, our first SRBB postseason bold prediction.
Post preseason.
Yeah,
way too early bold prediction. Milwaukee.
Let's put that all in hashtag.
Right. So they get there. Brandon Pfaadt, who I thought would be, and he didn't pitch poorly, but I thought would be one of the MVPs of the series.
Yeah.
Thinking that the D-backs would win. He had a pretty decent night overall. Scherzer got the start, and he only went 3, but I think they had already figured out when Scherzer started, it was a bullpen game.
Well, and that's what I think with Bruce Bochy is how he managed, especially Scherzer, because Scherzer never went, and it could be too because of the him coming back from the injury. Maybe they limited, but I wonder too if it just has to do with maybe he just knows stuff. Bochy does, and maybe he's like
he just
knows stuff, and maybe he's like, Scherzer still got it, but do I think he can go 6? Do I, no. So, 3 is good.
So he does that, only gives up 2 hits. He actually didn't look bad. Struck out 1, walked 2, but's able to make his way through, whereas Pfaadt, who went just over 5, does give up 3 runs, including a home run to Corey, who goes deep with a 1-on-2-run shot in the 3rd inning.
Now in this game, Scherzer, I say that I may be giving Bruce Bochy too much credit because Scherzer did come out of the game with back tightness, but maybe that was kind of part of the plan for Bochy. He was like, I know Scherzer, I've watched him. I don't know that he's going to go deep into the game. He's,
Well,
He's got these issues.
lucky for him, he did make the right call on who to
Yes.
bring in, because another guy who came off of the IL
Mm-hmm.
to join the postseason roster with Scherzer, John Gray, comes in and throws one hit baseball for 3 innings, strikes out 3, walks nobody, ends up really holding down the fort for him. And at this point, in the we talked about that home run just a second ago. That was the 3rd inning. That would be all the Rangers would need is 3, and it would take the D-backs until like the 8th inning or so. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, the 8th
to get
inning.
on the board, and it was it was all thanks to Emmanuel Rivera, who I think gets overlooked on this team. Because throughout the playoffs, you would see that he would come in late in games as a defensive replacement for Longoria and get a base knock, a timely hit somewhere along the way. Here he does it again, grabs a double, and thanks to a single by just a lousy one by Perdomo, Geraldo Perdomo off of Chapman, they get a little something brewing, but doesn't help when the guy you want on base watches one and strikes out in Corbin Carroll, and then Ketel Marte grounds into a double play. It just that kind of becomes a bigger theme. You'll see as time goes. So they got that one. They couldn't do anything else, and at that point, I think it was probably safe to say that we were starting to see the beginning of the end. I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there was, well, another thing too is you could watch the Diamondbacks, the players up on the railing, and there were certain times where before it always seemed like they had like, it doesn't matter, we might be behind, but we'll come back or we'll do this. They had that fire, and it seemed like you had said in the last game, it's kind of, or I guess maybe the first game, where the wind and the sails was, not as strong. And I think you saw that in this game and this game 3. And there just was a different feeling or vibe that you were getting from the dugout.
Right. That's exactly right. Now the next night would be an odd game.
Yeah, and some kind of a controversial in the baseball world game, because it was a bullpen game.
It was. Now, before we go with this, before the first pitch, news hit that
yes,
Max Scherzer off of with that back tightness. That one didn't surprise me. And at this point in the series, oh well.
Interloper.
Exactly. He had to leap out to go leap into somebody else to right some other wrong somewhere or cause more problems, more likely. The bigger blow was that actually it had happened before, but during batting practice, Adolis Garcia, it actually had happened before this. He had pulled a muscle and even went and got an MRI right away to see what had happened. And of course, it's my favorite injury, an oblique injury.
Ooh.
And a World Series oblique injury. You would think I'd have a whole big Hello Dolly kind of number going for something like that, a musical production, which I don't.
It's the double album.
I know that right there is like That is a whole concept album right there. Not even just the normal oblique songs, just a World Series oblique injury. You would have thought. But anyway, it turns out, and he even tries before this game to go and work out and see if he can do it. It's a grade 2, which honestly, you're the IL expert.
Yeah, that is one that's going to take a while, and he's going to be spinning.
Right. So
he's in our oblique, wing.
He's in
the will,
which is huge. Anyway, he's off the roster now too.
Yeah, and so that's big. I'm saying like it's a bullpen game. That's the bigger news.
That was the huge news. But then you follow up with like that. You're in the World Series. And honestly, I have to say, I think there were a couple times over the last couple seasons where we thought that the Dodgers, who like not this season, but last season had a lot of bullpen games throughout the season, should have maintained that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel all of a sudden. It's like, what worked for you? Do that. Mm. So, yeah, they start everything off with Joe Manaply, who actually looked good in the first inning. But if you listen to Smoltz and Davis, he'd only gotten 4 outs. Wondering what's going on. How does that work? Well, he got his 4 outs. And then the script kicked in. And, Torey Lovello left him in a little too long. And, he makes it out of the first inning. But the second inning, and I got to say this too. We talked about it. Remember with the Dodgers when, Kershaw had that terrible outing. It started with not Kershaw pitching poorly necessarily, but it started with an error.
And it's all downhill.
And so 2 different plays, one got the error and Christian Walker got an error and he bobbles the ball, poorly, but
which just as an aside, he has a Gold Glove. He's also nominated for another Gold Glove. I think
for him,
none of this counts.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, no Gold Glove for you.
No Gold Glove for you. The Gold Glove Nazi has struck.
But yeah, so it's always seems to be, how does that change the direction of the game?
Well, it changes it in the fact that in the second and the third innings, thanks to these botched plays, Andrew Haney looks like Cy Young.
Right, he does.
And which I have to this was kind of funny. I saw somebody said, who's the greatest pitcher to have never won a Cy Young? And, a lot of people, the thing was they were talking about like Nolan Ryan never won a Cy Young as great as he was. And somebody wrote, wouldn't that have been Cy Young? The greatest.
That's right.
He 5 runs in back-to-back innings they spot him a 10-0 lead. We go to the bottom of the third and they're already down 10-0. If I think on that game, I didn't really see much. I think I had it up, but I hadn't been watching closely and I knew Manaply was in. And, but I was doing a couple other things thinking, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this. And next thing I know, it's 10-0.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's not good. Because I thought they were going to come back and play well. It's Halloween. They're dressed up like contenders. Waldo was there. We knew where he was. He was right behind home plate.
Yeah, we were able to find him finally.
And, it's just like, It was a fun atmosphere there, it seemed like, but if ever there was a time for just, and I got to give it to the folks there in Phoenix. We've seen a lot of games. Well, I have. You don't get to see them, but the Dodgers go in, and if you're watching on TV, whatever channel you're watching, whether you're watching a Phoenix channel, the MLB because you don't live in the area that's blacked out, or you're watching it on Dodger channel, it looks like Dodger Stadium because it's almost all blue. You look behind home plate, it's all blue. You look around the stadium, it's so much blue. The fans, even though they were losing 10-0, didn't let that, they cheered on their team.
Yeah, they stayed with it, which is unlike some of the games that we've seen in this postseason where, by this point, I think Houston, everybody behind home plate would have been gone. They would have left. So, yeah, I mean, you got to keep cheering them on because I've seen games, I think we've all seen games where the team is up, it can be 10 runs and the other team comes back. And the Diamondbacks do try.
So bottom of the fourth, they get a run up on, so they're dealing it 10-1, thanks to a bad inning by Andrew Haney. Walks the leadoff hitter, which is what we said, Cardinals in, Gabriel Moreno. Or Gabriel, just to get under Eduardo's skin. I heard him on the radio before Game 5. And they were talking about the teams, and he says Gabriel Moreno. And instead of just going on with his point about what was going on with Moreno, he has to stop. And now Eduardo Perez is Hispanic. He speaks Spanish. We get it. But then he had to go off on a little diatribe about how he hates that people call him Gabriel. Well, not everybody, when they see the name, if they hear Gabriel, they probably think Gabriela or something like that. And so they don't think about it, or they don't know how to properly pronounce it in Spanish.
Right.
I hate it when people do that. I hate it when people do that. And I was just like, shut up. Tell us your point. They were, the two hosts that were on were gushing about what he knows and what he's doing and all that stuff.
Well,
and I was just
I've heard, this is just as an aside, that whether he would or not, but there are several positions open for a manager's position, and that maybe he could fill one of those.
Maybe. And you know what? Just because you mentioned that, it just popped in my head. Was it last week we were talking about what Mark DeRosa said? And I said talking about the asterisks. And I said, well, he's got a different, he's not saying that it was thrown at, that they threw intentionally at him. I said, because Mark DeRosa's name's been popping up as a manager. So if he says, yes, that's the case, he takes himself out of the running for possibly replacing Dusty Baker.
Right. Maybe. So, yeah. But that's a little aside there, but let's get back to this game.
So the bottom of the fourth, and this is for you, Eddie, Lou Gurriel, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Would hit a sac fly that would score Gabriel Moreno and move Christian Walker, who, hey, surprise, surprise, got a double.
Yeah.
Picking it up. I mean, it would have been nice for him and his team had he been hitting better
the whole time.
Yeah. No home runs in this series that I recall for him, and he led the team in home runs. Anyway, that gets them one run, and then nothing.
Yeah, very quiet.
And then just when you think, all right, it's over completely, What more needs to happen? It's 10-1. There's no reason. Well, Jonah Heim adds one on just to make it now. You don't have to score 9 runs to tie it. You have to score 10 runs to tie it. So that they were just, let's add another degree of difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. But the Diamondbacks do try. They do try to come back. In the 8th, Tommy Pham hit a sacrifice fly. Corbin Carroll scored. That made it 11-2.
That was thanks to back-to-back-to-back singles.
Right, yes.
By Carroll, Moreno, and Walker.
Yeah, so then Moreno goes to 3rd. Walker goes to 2nd. And here comes Lourdes Gurriel Jr. with his purple hair, which there are kids I saw and even adults, but I saw mostly kids sporting the purple hair, but it was like a wig or something, because whatever that hairstyle is that they have in the Gurriel family, is it just that hair? Is it something to do with their hair?
I don't know how they
does
do that.
But yeah,
it's strange.
But he comes up and he hits a home run. Moreno scores, and Walker scores.
Well, he didn't care if you call him Marino, just don't call him Gabriel.
Gabriel has to be Gabriel. Okay. And then it's 11-5. So you're like, okay, maybe.
And cue John Smoltz talking about how, and he was right, and I think I felt it as I was watching as well, this is a good sign for the D-backs. At 11-1, they could have just quit.
Yeah, that's right.
But they don't, and they actually, this is that false hope that happens though.
Mm-hmm.
They gave the Phoenix crowd, who they like this answer backs, not comebacks. They're the answer backs coming from behind. They made a great effort, and the guy we've been talking about, Gabriel Moreno, does single in both Jordan Lawler, who came in and walked. He pinch hit for Pavin Smith. Pavin Smith had pinch hit for Emmanuel Rivera a little earlier. And so he pinch hits for him, draws a walk. It was a great at bat. He really worked Will Smith, and made him throw some pitches, and he just didn't do it. Perdomo singles, and then Perdomo would steal second to set up two more runs when Gabriel Moreno would hit a single off of Jose Leclerc. And a lot of talk about that too. Jose Leclerc coming in saying, hey, you get one more look at Leclerc.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Before, I don't remember if it was before this game or before the game before I was watching. And, on the pregame show and the postgame show, I don't know who the Fox host is. I've seen him, but I don't know his name. A Fraud, Poppy, David Ortiz.
Oh, I think it's
and Derek Jeter.
And Kevin Burkhardt, I think, is
that's okay. Yeah. So they're talking about oh no, it was the next game. It was game 5.
Oh.
So I'll talk about that in a second. But it just furthered my belief that he's a fraud.
Yeah. Well, we all knew that, but
anyway, that would be the end of it. In the bottom of the 9th, they tried, they pushed, they got back within 4 after being down by a full 10 runs. And oddly enough, back-to-back innings of 5 runs with 2 outs.
Yeah,
Each
that's
inning.
a Dodger thing.
Yeah. So, and the Diamondbacks out hit them by 1 hit. They had 12 hits, 11. And this would be a story for them throughout of not being able to get runs in with runners in scoring position, not to get the timely hits. We head to what would be the first of, 3 possible elimination games in this series. Game 5. The D-backs want to win this so they can take it back to Texas, so that way the Rangers will celebrate on their own field if they win, or they get to celebrate on somebody else's field if they win. I think that's better. You get to celebrate on somebody else's field.
Yeah, and
it's nice in front of your own crowd, but you're kind of desecrating their hollow ground.
Right. Well, wasn't it the Diamondbacks when they won in Philadelphia? They had their Diamondbacks flag and they put it planted it. That was like, it reminded me of how the Sooners did that with Texas and how they put their big flag, and it was outrage, but nobody, seemed to care.
Nah, they didn't really care.
Well, mainly because nobody was in the stadium, but except the two Diamondbacks.
By the end of that game, that was them and maybe a couple other fans that were they were waiting for the Diamondback fans to leave so they could smack them around.
Maybe. This game gave us another matchup of Nathan Eovaldi and Zach Gallen. So
and now that I think about it, I may have been wrong about what game it was before that A-Fraud says this, but there was a base running error. And Christian Walker he ran through the stop sign at third base, head down. I don't know if you remember that. So he gets thrown out at home.
Oh, yes.
But he was trying to run. So A-Fraud is like just lambasting him for this. That was a bad move. It was careless. It wasn't even just a missed signal. It was bad baseball. And he was just like, that's the end of story. There's nothing else to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Poppy said he kind of played the middle, which kind of worked because that's where he was between Fraud and Jeter.
Yeah.
And but he said, no, there was that. And, he probably should have stopped, but I think it was a missed signal, but he kind of played the middle of it. And Jeter said the whole time that A-Fraud's talking, Jeter's got that look on his face like, you idiot. He's smiling about it. Kind of that.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's why Poppy is in the middle.
Probably. These guys played next to each other for how many years? Shortstop and third base.
Yeah.
And he just
was like,
love
lost.
No, none at all. And he went the different direction and said it was a missed signal, but he's got to be aggressive like that.
Yeah, you're trying to win a game, and it's postseason. It's the World Series, right? So things that you wouldn't necessarily do in the regular season, everything's out on the table.
Yeah, you gotta do that. And he was the one thing I think they kind of agreed on a little bit, but Jeter still felt like it was a good move what Christian Walker did. And then of course they brought up that Torey Lovullo said that Christian Walker was the best base runner on there. And then of course throw that back in his face that, well, he's so good. Why did he do this? It's because he was focused on it. But one thing that A-Fraud did point out, and when you watch the replay of it, he did hesitate. And when he hesitated, he probably should have stopped at third. But when he got going, his head was down. And what I thought about was that the third base coach should have noticed that and got farther over and got down to be more in the line of sight of the runner.
Yes.
To say stop. He's standing straight up. Well, if you see where he's at and where Christian Walker's turning third, he never saw the base coach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, I guess you do have to, if you have to get down on the ground for your runner to see, you got to do it. Right.
Exactly. And you've seen third base coaches do that.
Oh,
they
yeah.
do what they got to do. Good third base coaches. And this guy, I don't know who the third base coach is there in Arizona, but it was like, here's Christian Walker's pushing himself because he wants to help his team, and he hasn't done it well.
Yeah.
When you looked at him, you could see it almost every time he came to the plate. He was defeated when he got there.
Yeah, because he just hadn't done well. I would say, the Arizona third base coach is no Dino Evil.
No, he's certainly not. Anyway, great pitching matchup throughout this game. You had Nathan Eovaldi on the hill for the Rangers, and Zach Gallen pitching at home, where he's pitched well for the D-backs, and really up until the seventh inning, it's a pitcher's duel. And honestly, it wasn't until I think it was that inning, the seventh, that Zach Gallen finally gives up a hit. He was no-hitting the Rangers through most of this game. And then he only gives up 3 hits overall, but that was really, as far as how it went, that was it. They would score more runs, but the Diamondbacks couldn't score any runs. Multiple opportunities. They started off the game. They weren't messing around. Corbin Carroll gets a walk and then steals second base, first pitch.
Right
out the bat, and then he gets to third base on thanks to a ground out, and then Gabriel comes up and weakly grounds out. All he needed to do was hit a fly ball, and the D-backs are on the board. They couldn't do that. They end up stranding both Corbin Carroll and Christian Walker, who would walk, in that inning. And it just kind of seemed to be that way all game. They left, somebody on. As I'm looking through, inning by inning, Gurriel got on, left him.
Yeah.
The next inning, they left 2 on with, Corbin Carroll singled. And then he makes it to third base again, and Marte gets to second base, left him there.
Yeah, there's 11, I think the 11 runners that were left on base. So they just couldn't.
No matter what they did,
couldn't get across the plate. They just couldn't do it.
And Zach Gallen doing exactly what he needed to do was they couldn't do anything to help him. Didn't matter how great he was pitching. He did his job.
Right. Yeah. He pitched well, and he gave up the 3 hits and only the 1 run. But if your offense isn't helping you out, what does it matter what you're doing on the mound? Right.
Right. So they couldn't do anything to help him out, and they kind of got the D-backs looked like one of the teams they beat to get here, the Dodgers.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Dodgers had that same issue. Didn't matter. It doesn't matter whether pitching was good or bad. It mattered that they couldn't get any hits. And so they just left. Overall, they were 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They would leave, like you said, 11 runners on base. And the Rangers in the seventh would get a run when Mitch Garver would single to center field, and it would score Corey Seager, who would had singled a little earlier, and Evan Carter had doubled to move Corey over to third, and Mitch Garver with a single. They'd score that one run, and that was, I don't know if Torrey left Zach in there a little too long. You got to think when you lose the momentum that's going with a no-hitter, tends to be that at that point it kind of falls apart. And I wonder if it's not a good thing to pull him right away, because he comes out, he comes into the inning, Corey gets that single that breaks up the no-hitter, Carter with a double, and then Garver with another single. Now I know you got to kind of stick with him, and he actually does throw to Josh Young and strikes him out. But before he's got to go through all of that before they replace him with Kevin Ginkel, who maybe Kevin Ginkel should have come in before Mitch Garver to second guess Torey Lovullo.
Well, and later, they bring in Paul Sewald, who has been lights out, and I think very surprised by his performance.
Yeah, so the first they scored the one run. They didn't need to score anymore. And you could tell that without that the Diamondbacks just weren't going to score any runs.
Yeah, no, they were, like I said, if you watch, you're watching the game, but of course they're showing the dugout, they're showing the players, and they looked defeated. They had, their heads on the railing, the shoulders were slumped. There was no drive.
Everything that we tried at the beginning to get things going, nothing worked.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, the problem was that you did the right things at the beginning, stealing bases, you were playing your game, nobody was hitting.
Yeah.
And then, or they weren't having quality at bats to get on base, to keep forcing the issue. Nathan Eovaldi wasn't put in a lot of pressure, even with the base stealing.
Yeah.
Even with the guys getting on base, they had the bases loaded 2 different times that I remember. Guys on third base, 0 for 9, runners in scoring position. It doesn't work well. Marcus Semien, who had the last couple of games, he had a miserable postseason.
Yeah, he not well.
The last couple of games, he'd had some hits. He gets a home run in this when it really kind of doesn't matter anymore. They would go on to score 4 runs in the bottom of in the top of the 9th. Thanks to a single by Jonah Heim to score Josh Young and Nathaniel Lowe. Semien hits the home run and brings home Jonah Heim, and
that's it.
That was it in the last inning. And that was all Paul Sewald. Paul Sewald came in the 9th, gives up all 4 runs, and just looks horrendous. It was a single, 3 singles in a row. Finally gets somebody strike out, a ground out, the home run, and then another single. And then finally he gets Evan Carter to strike out. And that pretty much put a wrap on it. All the Diamondbacks could do was they struck out. Corbin Carroll had a foul pop fly behind home plate. So, talk about going out on a whimper. And Ketel Marte, who had been, who in his very first at bat of this game, maintained his streak. Then ends up striking out looking. And that's it. The Rangers are your 2023 world champions. They hit the field celebrating. And Scherzer gives Bochy a hug.
Yeah, the interloper. But it's interesting is I was looking back and you don't realize, but I always remember Will Smith. There's a Will Smith, obviously the catcher for the Dodgers, but there is a Will Smith, the pitcher, and I still always remember this. I think it was oh shoot, what's his name? All of a sudden I forgot. He calls Monday Night Football with Troy Aikman now. Joe Buck. How could I forget his name?
Oh, right. I'd forgotten you were talking about too. Like, who?
Yeah. What? So Joe Buck is, when he did the World Series, he said Will Smith was pitching to Will Smith. And he said Will Smith's namesake. And I'm like, I don't know that Will Smith's parents said, "Oh, name him after."
Oh, he's
Will
such
Smith.
a great relief pitcher,
right?
And you know what? His name wasn't Will Smith when he was born. We're going to change it now that we've seen Will Smith, the pitcher.
Exactly, but it's interesting about Will Smith because he won with the Braves in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Who was on the World Series 2022 Astros. And now he's on the 2023 World Series champions, the Rangers. 3 years in a row.
He is like Robert Horry to the NBA. He's got 7 rings. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he was on different teams at the right time.
Yeah, that's
He's an
exactly. Yeah.
Is what he is. All right. So MVP of the World Series, he joined Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, Reggie Jackson as being the only players to have won this twice. The last time he won the World Series MVP, he was on his home field. Wasn't his home field at the time, but he was in Arlington in the Grill and won the MVP. This time he does it as a part of the Rangers. Corey Seager is the World Series MVP. And got to tell you, he's usually pretty, what's the term, stoic.
Yeah.
When he hit that home run that tied up the game in like game 1 there, he let out a yell and he was fired up. And it was more emotion I'd seen from him than I'd ever seen from him.
Ever.
Really.
Yeah. And it was no surprise, that he would be the MVP. He has, we've seen him in the postseason before, obviously, with the Dodgers, now with the Rangers. And he just, he really is got that postseason, whatever magic, whatever it is, he has it. And, but it's funny because in the post game interview, somebody got up and he's just won the World Series, is MVP. And somebody asked the question, why do you think the Dodgers let you go? Like, what? Like, that's your question? You get one question.
And who's to say that the Dodgers let me go, that I didn't just choose to leave? I was a free agent.
Well, and I think from everything I've read, I get the sense that one of the reasons he went to the Rangers was because Chris Woodward was there, who had been a base coach or coach with the Dodgers. He had a close relationship with him. He liked the front, he liked what he saw. And again, he was a free agent. And so I don't know that it was necessarily that the Dodgers were like, yeah, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. I don't think it was that. I think he just, like any player who's a free agent, you're going to look for the places that you feel you want to play. The other thing too with the Rangers is a lot of talk about how the team was built and how money was spent. And we saw Corey Seager go. They had Marcus Semien, and they didn't have great seasons. They lost 112
100, 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And
but
that's
kept going, and
right.
Now look where they're at. But yeah, I mean, they did buy their team for the most part.
But they had the thing that people don't realize is you're going to buy pieces, and then you also have pieces that you traded for. Adolis Garcia, they traded for.
Mm-hmm.
They had Evan Carter come up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They had Josh Young was another one. Rookies that stepped up, and guys who had just been there. Nathaniel Lowe, Mitch Garver, Jonah Heim. These are guys that came out, and then like Travis Jankowski stepped in and played well for Adolis. Sure, he's not hitting home runs that are rockets out of there, but Leody Taveras. These are all he built a good team. The thing that I thought was going to be their downfall was going to be their pitching, and their pitching held in there fine. Andrew Haney, game before, pitched really well.
Well, and look who closed out the game. A former Dodger who didn't always look that great, Josh Schwartz, right?
Yep, Spores. Did get that World Series save for them to, and then they're celebrating.
We have mentioned this, Creed, because Creed takes them higher, right? I know you love it. I have another person in the house who just can't stand Creed. He has a great impersonation of the lead singer
of Scott Stapp.
Yeah, but whatever, that's
right. I'm going to take you higher and then drop you out of like a balloon.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, this was a record. Rangers set an MLB record of 11 postseason road wins.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had Tampa Bay Rays, the Baltimore Orioles, the Houston Astros, and now with the Diamondbacks beating them. And the other thing is, I really did want to see the Rangers run out towards the pool and see what those guys that were standing in front of the pool, in front of the fence would do, but they didn't.
No, and you know what? Players, there's still people who are upset about what happened years ago with the Dodgers going out there and getting in the pool.
Yeah. It's
a
sacred spot for a Diamondback.
Get over it.
Yeah, like if I saw him on the street, I would walk on by because he jumped in the pool. But at the beginning of the series with the Dodgers, with the Diamondbacks, their their general manager, their owner, said, "Oh yeah, if the other team wins, they can get in the pool."
Yeah.
And of course, they didn't, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But so Rangers win, and as you said, they have won their World Series. They don't have to do it again.
Nope. And who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. They have a team that, with a couple little tweaks, could be set up to be the new dynasty of the West, taking over for Houston. As we mentioned earlier, it became a deal that Dusty did retire. So that's another open spot.
Mm-hmm.
We got that. During the World Series, something that we always wonder about, and we got an answer to, I think, quite unexpectedly, the Roberto Clemente Award, given this year to Aaron Judge, who was at home working out here in California when he received a call from the vice president of communications for the Yankees and said, "Hey, he was like, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, you've won the Roberto Clemente Award. Go to Arizona.
Yeah. Be there.
You're going to have to hang out with Manfred. Sorry."
Well, and he said that he wondered, is there a trade going on? Am I being traded? What's going on? Who?
Right. Well, and who
what's
knows
happening?
with the way things are up in the air
Well,
there.
the only thing, the saving grace for him, though, is that nothing could happen until after the World Series.
Right. And of course,
So,
I don't know if you saw, but like, day after the World Series, everybody's like, Shohei's a free agent.
yeah,
There'll
come
be
on.
a lot in this next week. So next week when we talk, we'll have some basic ideas of what the Angels and the Dodgers may be doing as far as who they're releasing, who they're giving qualifying offers to, and such. So to go back real quick, Aaron Judge, the fourth Yankee to win the Roberto Clemente Award, joining Rod Guidry, Don Baylor, and Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting as we now have a World Series champ. Now the hot stove begins. How do the Rangers, what are they going to do in the off season? Are they going to add pieces to potentially be win again? And what about those other teams that were in the playoffs? Philadelphia, I've heard, maybe Blake Snell could go. Maybe Blake Snell could go to Philly. This is all really early, but we're going to talk about that next week. That's probably one of our favorites. We're hoping the hot stove will have more sizzle this offseason
than it has in the past. Yeah, that's going to be the other thing for the Rangers. Do they become, obviously they should become a more attractive destination?
Yes.
But will they? And
on the flip side, with Arizona, with the Diamondbacks, they're no longer the cellar dwellers. Now, hey, they've been to a World Series. They've got the young players. What pieces do they add? And do they, continue to just build up and make another run?
Right.
So that, I think, looking at both of the World Series, the two teams in the World Series, it'll be interesting to see what will they be doing, what's their mindset going into next season, along with all of the other teams, and in particular our teams, the Dodgers and the Angels.
130 free agents flooding into the market. And nobody's going to sign until anybody figures out what Shohei's doing.
Shohei.
Because he's got now.
Yeah. Reminds me of my son has a friend that he just is like, I think he sneaks off campus, and when he goes through the gate, he just says, "Hi," and he says his name. So that'll be Shohei. "Hi, I'm Shohei." And we'll go from there.
There you go. All right. Before we bail out today, like I said, we'll talk more about, other things, teams in that now that the World Series is over. We do want to say farewell to a couple of people. We're going to start with Frank Howard, who started his career with the Dodgers, was Rookie of the Year in 1960 with the Dodgers. Would go on to play for the Washington Senators, and actually went from the Senators to Texas and was a Ranger when they became the Rangers. Was an MVP candidate multiple times, was an All-Star in 1971, finished up his career in the early 70s in Detroit. He would also go on to manage in baseball, managed for a couple of seasons as well. He grew up in Washington, D.C., and was actually part of the Nationals organization, and they were the ones that kind of put out the information. So former Dodger and overall, and it was kind of funny, an overall great player. Numerous times he made it into the top 10, even the top 5 a couple of times for MVP voting. And one thing I thought was kind of funny was there was a video of David Letterman in Yankee uniform doing the hit by pitch drill. So how to take one for the team was, I think, how it was. And Frank Howard was actually pitching and hitting. And at one point, Dave's like, ow, or something like that. He's like, rub some dirt on it. and away he went. And then finally, even though it's not baseball, there is just no way that we can't say farewell to legendary college coach and the guy who didn't keep Larry Bird on his team, told him he was never going to really amount to much as a basketball player. So that sent Larry to Indiana State instead of being a Hoosier in Indiana. Bob Knight, famous for throwing a chair during a game, famous for his temper. If you ever saw the movie Blue Chips with Nick Nolte,
Yeah.
Bobby Knight's in that movie. However, Nick Nolte kind of based his character off of Bobby Knight.
Yeah, he was. Bobby Knight became the youngest coach at a Division I school in 1965 when he coached at Army. But we all know he made his mark in Indiana, and he had, including winning a school record 661 games and reaching the NCAA tournament 24 times in 29 seasons. And his first NCAA title came in 1976 when Indiana went undefeated. And that is a feat that no team has accomplished since.
Nope. Not at all. Nope. He coached, like I said, Army, Texas Tech, 902 total wins over his career. And, he started off with Ohio State and just went on. But Indiana was obviously, like you said, where he left his mark. So at 83, legendary college coach Bob Knight, and really the Hoosier. Even though he wasn't from there, he was truly when you think Indiana Hoosiers, the first person you think of is Bobby Knight.
That's right.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for us on this week's edition of the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Remember, you can find us on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A.
And on Instagram and Facebook at Sibling Rivalry BB with the A.
Online, catch us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Next week, we will put a wrap on things. We've got we'll talk Dodgers, we'll talk Angels, we'll talk hot stove. What's going on? Qualifying offers. It's like 4 days or 5 days after the end of the World Series. So we'll know who, and maybe in some cases who's accepted, who's turned it down, are there more free agents coming onto the market? Any managers, because there's quite a few open spots now. Has any of that happened? Craig Counsell's out interviewing all over the place. I think he even interviewed at a McDonald's. Poughkeepsie, New York, I think is where.
Hopefully their Big Mac is cheaper than in Danbury, Connecticut, which I hear is selling a Big Mac combo for $18.
$18.
Yes.
All right. And I thought things were bad here. Anyway, we'll see you. We'll talk about all those things, and we'll see you next week here on the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Don't forget to swing away.